The United States is now dealing with its own outbreak of the coronavirus, with some Americans forced into quarantine. In fact, as many as 6 Americans have died from the virus already. And if you live in a country that does not have affordable universal health care, this already serious problem is exacerbated further. And nothing makes that clearer than the Americans who were brought back to the United States from China. And then they were forced into quarantine, and then they were slapped with these giant medical bills that they can't afford. So let me give you some examples. Frank Wasinski, a Pennsylvania native who has lived in China for years, accepted the US government's offer to evacuate him from Wuhan with his 3-year-old daughter, Annabelle, in early February as the new coronavirus spread. Now, both of them have already tested negative multiple times for the virus, but he was still forced into quarantine by the federal government. After their release from quarantine, he and his daughter went to stay with his mother in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. That's where they found a pile of medical bills waiting, $3,918 in charges from hospital doctors, radiologists, and an ambulance company. So he was quoted as saying this: "I assumed it was all being paid for. We didn't have a choice. When the bill showed up, it was just a pit in my stomach. Like, how do I pay for this?" And I'm sure a lot of Americans experience something very similar after they have to go to the emergency room or just go for a regular checkup, and then they get hit with lab bills that they didn't expect. This is what happens every day, but it's even worse when you're dealing with what's being referred to as a pandemic.
Yeah, so we had a talk at the production meeting about this story, and I realized that I came off as stupid, and I will come off as stupid again. I never even considered the possibility that people forced into government quarantine would have to pay for that. That seems insane.
I don't know if it's just my pessimistic nature, but I'm smart enough to know that this government has no interest in helping you in any way. So if they force you into quarantine, I mean, we live in a country where our elected officials are totally comfortable with the fact that tens of thousands of Americans die every single year because of a lack of health care, okay? They're okay with that. In fact, they fight tooth and nail to keep this system in place. So yeah, of course they would force you into quarantine, and then once you get those bills, give you a giant middle finger. The only hope that these individuals have is that there'll be enough backlash from articles like this that maybe some members of the government will feel embarrassed and they'll take care of it. But I don't even think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I never, like, have you ever watched like Outbreak? You know, where they're all like, the whole town is the sequel about their medical debt? That's ridiculous. They didn't choose it.
Why are you giving people your ideas?
Ignore that, move on. Yeah, 100%. And by the way, like, I know we're not supposed to politicize things like this, but no, the Democrats should definitely put forward a bill right now that the government is gonna reimburse literally everyone for screening costs, treatment, if they're quarantined, lost wages, and to pay for the vaccine for every single individual. And because that makes so much sense, and if the Republicans wanna vote that down, or if Trump wants to veto it, let him do that. If he believes that, how could you pay for not having a pandemic sweep across the US, killing hundreds of thousands of people? If that's what he wants to run on, feel free.
I know.
But it is obviously, I would say it's both morally and it's also financially, it makes all the sense in the world for the US government to do that. Because think about it, after these stories get around, like we're covering this, and if someone gets sick, they're gonna submit themselves to quarantine?
No way, no way.
How could they?
No, this is incredibly dangerous, because if you are not someone who has the resources and you're worried about getting hit with a giant medical bill, and then you happen to suspect that maybe you contracted this virus, are you really gonna go to the doctor? Are you going to report anything? And then that could potentially spread this virus among other people who have compromised immune systems. I mean, people are dying from this right now as we speak. And you want individuals who suspect that they have the virus to feel comfortable coming forward and seeking medical attention for their own lives and the lives of people surrounding them. So here, I wanna give you some numbers so you kind of get a sense of how ridiculous our healthcare system is compared to healthcare systems in other countries, how much we pay compared to other countries. So the International Federation of Health Plans estimates that the average day in a US hospital costs $4,293 compared with $1,308 in Australia and $481 in Spain. So it just shows you how grossly inflated medical costs are here in the United States. And why is that? Well, HHS Secretary Alex Azar recently was very candid about what the real priority is when it comes to healthcare in America. So take a look at him answering a question about the coronavirus and a possible vaccine.
You're saying it will for sure be affordable for anyone who needs it.
I'm saying we would want to ensure that we work to make it affordable, but we can't control that price because we need the private sector to invest. The priority is to get vaccines and therapeutics. Price controls won't get us there.
Mr. Secretary, thank you.
We got to protect the profits, So maybe this vaccine will save lives, but we can't do anything about the cost of the vaccine. We can't make it affordable for people to ensure that this virus doesn't spread, because what about the profits? Now, he later apologized for that statement because it was so gross and flippant.
Ghoulish.
And ghoulish, definitely. In fact, The Intercept reported that after a wave of criticism from Democrats, Azar walked the comment back the next day, saying he would ensure public access to a vaccine, the disease caused by the virus if one should be developed. But Azar, who served as the top lobbyist for Eli Lilly pharmaceutical company before becoming president of the drug company's US operations in 2012 and the Secretary of Health and Human Services in 2018, earned nearly $2 million during his last year at Eli Lilly.
He must have been a hard worker.
Yeah, and by the way, that profit came at the expense of people who needed the drugs, according to a lawsuit filed in 2017. While Azar was leading the pharmaceutical giant, the cost of its drugs went up significantly. In particular, insulin sold by the company more than doubled in price. He should have absolutely no role in politics, period. Like, this revolving door has caused pain and suffering and has completely dismantled a democratic system that's supposed to look out for the best interests of the electorate, of its people, of its citizens.
Yeah, I can only imagine that the ingredients of insulin suddenly became more expensive. What were they gonna do? No, but really, the greed on display right now is so stupid and self-destructive on the part of these pharmaceutical companies. Like, that interaction, our whole country, indeed the whole world, is terrified about the possibility of coronavirus running rampant across the country. And they're still, you can't have price controls, come on. So like, theoretically we wanna stop it, but like, we're not gonna pay to stop it. Like, you better pony up or you're gonna get the coronavirus and spread it around. Like, we're in the middle of an election that is fundamentally about, are we gonna continue this ridiculous system where the government is set up to benefit the billionaires and the large corporations, or are we gonna change it so that it serves the people? And they are writing campaign ads for the Democratic Socialists right now. Honestly, Bernie Sanders should be using that every single time. Talk about insulin too. All of this. How could we possibly leave that on people when we're supposed to believe that they're going to self-regulate, that they're going to be reasonable when they've been doubling the price of insulin like on a yearly basis? This is absolutely absurd. It's made for Bernie Sanders and he better use it.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.